What's up, everybody? Welcome to Investing in Cannabis. I'm your host, Brandon David. We have an info-packed episode for you today. We got my good friend Pranav, CEO, co-founder of Trellis. He's now in the Gateway Incubator Class 1 right now. That's inventory management for the future. It's an awesome talk, man. We just did it. It was like customer development and raising your first round and all this just info-packed stuff. If you're a founder, you're gonna learn a lot. Tune in, listen up, get acquainted. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Investing in Cannabis. I'm your host, Brandon David. We got a fun episode today, guys. We're here with my good friend, Pranav, who's the founder, CEO of Trellis. And he's currently in the Gateway first class, the Gateway Incubator first class. We're only like a month out or so, right? Before the end and before Elevate and before this all comes together. So thought we'd sit down. Thanks for being here, man. And in your beautiful apartment here, I may add. Thanks for having us. So just tell us what Trellis is.
Yeah, Trellis is an inventory management software for cannabis. We started back in 2014. I'm from Canada. That's where we launched. And we really worked with growers to build our software. This all started because we noticed that, especially in Canada, so in Canada, the way it works is you've got producers, they sell directly to patients through the mail. So there's no dispensaries under the new medical regulations.
Which is a crazy idea that you get your weed in the mail.
Oh, it's amazing.
But yeah.
Everyone loves it. It's like, but to manage that process, especially compared to the old regulations, which was completely different, I knew like it would be very difficult to have something in place. There's nothing out there that's like pharma meets ag and like manages an end-to-end solution. So I validated that. I just kind of talked to a couple growers I knew under the old system. And they were like, dude, that's one of the biggest issues we're dealing with right now. So I just, put some concepts together. If we had an integrated solution like this, would that solve the problem? And they're like, yes. So much so that they actually partnered with us, invested in the company, and then we built out this software together. And now we're live, and we're out here in California getting it to the hands of growers, manufacturers, dispensaries across the state.
Got it. So it should be noted that the system in Canada is different enough that we should maybe talk about it a little bit. So there's only 6 or 8 total licenses for commercial production of cannabis in Canada, right?
There's actually 35. Okay. And it's
I was so close.
So close. Yeah. And it's owned by like 30 people. So some people have multiple licenses. But yeah, it is a small market. And the number of shipments are fairly small as well. I would say it's probably 50 to 60,000 shipments at this point. Yeah. But yeah, much smaller market.
But because they are bigger institutions, right? If there's only 30 or 35 of them, that means that they're bigger scale businesses. You have the ability to sell enterprise software here, right? It's not like bullshit little dispensaries or grows in California where it's all stagnated and everything. I mean, your first main customer also invested in you. Like, what does that mean to you? What do you think that means as you compare yourself to the other seed to sale trackers that are out there?
Honestly, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because, yes, we had to build an enterprise-grade software, and that's exactly what we did. But then the majority of the market, the bigger market, is California, and it is a fragmented market. It's smaller, medium-sized farmers, so it's a different type of customer. So we had to build a product that would work in an enterprise atmosphere, but would also work in an outdoor grow that's 50 plants. And so that in itself kind of produces challenges to make a system that's dynamic enough. But yeah, like our first customer out in Canada, 7-acre hybrid greenhouse facility, our vision there, and that's really our testing ground for the software. And like right now we basically switched off their existing tracking software and they migrated over to us.
That's a big moment, right?
It's a huge moment.
And are they super nervous? Like, what do they say to you before they make that switch?
And they're a publicly traded company as well, so they've got a lot of risk in play. And we're doing it in a smart way, and essentially running 2 systems in parallel, which actually gives us a really good opportunity to build like validation documentation, which is really important for regulatory.
What's that mean? Tell us about that a little.
Yeah, so like putting together a software validation document is kind of like, here's our plan of how we're going to test it. And what better way to test your software than to run it in parallel with something that's already been approved? And as long as we have the same outputs, but we generate all the efficiencies and labor, et cetera, that's why there's a benefit. But as long as we have the same output, then it's validating that our software is working similarly. And then, as you mentioned, like it's a big regulatory compliance issue. And when we're dealing with enterprise grows, they have to go back and change their standard operating procedures and reapply essentially with Health Canada, the regulatory body. So, that's a big move. And having these types of documentations and test cases in place, that's what's going to allow us to be in there.
Got it. And what are like the key metrics there? How do you know you're doing better than what they were using before?
I mean, so it's a bit different for us because we were told what the pain points were when we were building the software. So we kind of minimized or mitigated those. But you can't capture, like you can capture the high level processes, but you can't capture the details and how people actually work in the environment. So we actually went into the facility and we were there for days just watching every single process from seedling, pre-veg, veg, flower, harvesting, etc. Like we stood there and watched, and we saw them use the old system before our system was in place. Yep. And it was a simple process. They were using one of our competitors, and they were trying to reconcile all the clones that they had in their nursery to the mother plant. But it just wasn't available in the software, so they had to kind of print out a mother report and then print out all the plant labels and then manually match them up and then reprint all the labels so they're all on the same strip. So that whole process took like 3 people and about 3 hours. That same report, to log in and access it in our system, is 30 seconds. And that's like one process. So you multiply that out to the entire grow, like that's what we're about. We're driving out the efficiencies.
That was incredible. And just a note, that was like a crash course on customer development right there. Like you went there, you checked out what they were doing, and you said, how do we make this better? Not a little bit better, but like a lot better, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of at the bigger end, right? And give us a feel for the scale of that grow, if you can.
It's the whole facility, 7 acres. They're rolling out in phases, so they probably have about an acre or 2 live right now, and over the next couple of years they'll go all the way to 7 acres.
And does that represent a certain percentage of the total cannabis in Canada, or do they calculate those numbers yet?
Yeah, so them specifically, they're in a different spot. So in Canada, the way it works is you apply, and then the first step after your inspection and everything is you get a license to grow, and then you need to successfully grow under the regulations before you get a license to sell. So they technically aren't able to sell to the direct end patient.
I see.
But they have this really interesting strategy where they're essentially the only B2B play in Canada. So they've pre-sold 2 years of their inventory to other licensed producers. They're able to sell the current inventory.
And why are they the only one? How did that happen?
I'm not sure. I mean, I guess they're smart, but yeah, it's an interesting strategy.
What's their name, by the way?
Oh, sorry. So the umbrella company Supreme Pharmaceuticals, which invested in us, and they own 7 acres, is the name of the company that's the operating producer.
Got it. So you had this relationship in place, got your first customer and investor, and then you hear of Gateway. I mean, why California? What do you benefit from here?
Yeah. So it actually worked out a bit interestingly for me. So I was actually looking at raising, and this was, I think, just after we closed a very small round that would get us to our MVP. And I was thinking, well, that's a short runway. I need to.
What does that look like? Like $100,000?
Yeah, pretty much $100,000. Yeah, exactly. And plus whatever the founders put in, et cetera. So we were looking for our next round of capital, which we probably would have tried to raise in 2-3 months. And so I was just looking at like cannabis investments. Like one of the things, especially in Canada, is, and especially at that time before Trudeau came in place, before like the recreational market was on the horizon, et cetera, getting capital for the cannabis industry in Canada was very difficult. People were very much in a like standstill, like let's see how things kind of play out and we'll go from there. And so like it was very difficult, but and not to say it's not difficult in the US, but the volume is just so much larger. So I was just out there looking for any type of funds, anything that we could tap into for the next round. And I think I Googled like cannabis investment fund, and Gateway was one of the first ones that came in. And when I checked it out, like I forget what the date was, but the date the application was due was the date I found them on Google, and I literally had like an hour to submit it.
A couple of the companies have that story.
Right?
That's funny.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so like literally in an hour, I just filled out the form. I didn't even have a chance to put in like a video interview, but it did say like you can email any additional information. So I emailed them my investor deck because I was raising at the time, and then ultimately got an interview, and the rest was.
Got it. Yeah, cool. And so coming into Gateway, which was now how long ago? 2-3 months ago?
They started kind of end of April. I came May 1st.
Yeah, got it. What were your expectations from the program going in?
So the reason why I accepted it and why I came out was, like, we all know the statistics. US is a huge market. California alone represents almost 50% of the entire US market. It's huge. What I didn't realize but now understand is on the regulatory side, regulations are in place, but it comes into effect in 2018. So we're in this like really interesting time frame where like regulations figuring itself out. It's a huge market, and like all the constraints and controls around it will come in place now. So you basically need to be here right now in order to have a play. And yeah, it just turned out really well. So I knew if we wanted to capture the US market, we would have to start with California. And I think we're doing a pretty good job so far.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about some of that traction if you can. I know you've had a pretty great last few weeks here.
Yeah, for sure. So the product finally went live. It's live in the facility in Canada, and we have a bunch of the other licensed producers in our pipeline as well. And then we're going live this week, the week of August 15th, with about 7 different clients out here in California. And we're actually, so I'm documenting it. So I write a lot. I've had a bunch of like articles published as well. And I'm working on a piece that I'm like super excited about. And it's called like the California Experiment. And it's basically like looking, because our 7 clients, they're across the spectrum. You've got a nursery that just sells clones. You've got an outdoor grow. You've got an indoor grow. You've got a dispensary. You've got an extractor. And like you've got someone that's kind of all 3 or all 4.
And how are you able to create a software that is applicable to all those different types of grows?
And that's the like magic behind it. And I think it's because we looked at it from the right perspective, which is it's an inventory play. Like all you're doing is moving inventory around and tracking how much there is and where it is, right? And so we focused on designing our software in a way that really mimics how product moves across the value chain. And we went end to end because we had to in Canada, which just allows us to kind of break it down and serve all these different types of clients here in California.
Interesting.
And that's what the whole story is about, is like we built this tool that's completely end to end and everyone's extracting value from it in different ways.
Got it. So having gotten your launched and out the door, pushed the product, what have you kind of learned from that process? I mean, it's been iterative. I've seen a couple different stages.
Yeah.
What do you learn from that?
So we were fortunate in having like 7 Acres and Supreme, because that's our testing ground. So we kind of iterated with them like in a very closed loop until we figured it out and really got where we needed to go. And then we started showing it to other people, and people were so like excited about how refined the product was compared to people that have been out there for 7 years, for example. And so that just kind of validated that we're doing it right. But now that we're opening it up and going live with more and more clients, we had to switch gears from like product development into implementation and like client support. And it's just a whole other set of like, not issues, but challenges. And so it's been fun. It's been exciting, and it's been a learning experience. But it's just been like shifting that mindset but not losing track of product development, because we got to keep iterating on that as well. And so it's just been crazy.
Got it. So I think 4 or 5 weeks left until Elevate and Demo Day, which is mid-September, September 19th and 20th. Just a little plug there. What's left? What do you really want to get done before that day?
I think we're in a good spot. There's certain metrics that I want to hit with the company going into Demo Day to make my life in raising capital easier.
Cool. Yeah.
And also generate some cash flow, because that also helps with capital raise requirements, et cetera. So for me, it's really execution right now. We've kind of laid out the pieces, products live, and now we have like literally 6 weeks to implement and convert to sales and just get as many other people on board.
Is it working better is really the question, right? Like when you look at that data over the next 5 weeks, they're going to directly compare it to whatever else they were using. If you've exceeded it, you're going to get a bunch of money, I think.
For sure. But so this whole thing, this whole Trellis thing, this whole system, I've been told by people, I've been told by growers, they've asked me, do you grow? Because I understand it so well. I've had people be like, one of my customers said, the reason I like working with you is because you're coming at it from a love of the plant, and it shows in the product and it shows in the business. Yep. And so, it's definitely true. So that's what I'm super excited about. Like, I want to hit my numbers so that I can get more resources, so that I can build this bigger, so that I can help more growers and help more patients. Like, that's what it's all about. So that's what's, driving me for the next 5 weeks.
Wow. Couldn't have said it better myself, my friend. Thanks again for being on. It's been cool. Do a little catch up. We'll maybe do another one after Elevate too. See how you're doing.
Yeah.
Thanks again for having us. It was fun, man.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.
We have so many exciting things planned for the show for the next year, but we can't do it without your help. So there's this company called Patreon that just allows you to donate a little bit of money to the show anonymously, so nobody will know that you're doing that. If you like the show, if you want me to continue making the show, this team, things cost money. We travel places, we need new equipment, we promote things occasionally when the internet lets us. And we need your help. So I mean, $5, $10 a month, whatever you can afford really does make a difference. If you give a shit about cannabis, if you like this show, if you learn something from it, just go to patreon.com/investingincannabis and give whatever you can. There's some rewards on there for 50 or $100 or whatever, but anything counts. And thank you so much in advance for doing it.